Greetings, all my people. It's April. It is the month known to some as Earth Month. I love it, but also I have a hard time with it because I'm like, you know what? We live on Earth every month. Am I right? So, just saying. But there are so many great things happening this month, and I hope you're following some of the great organizations that we highlight on this podcast. And I know I've mentioned a few times the Creation Justice Ministries Plastic Jesus resource, but it's almost Earth Day and that sort of Earth Day Sunday weekend, so I just wanted to plug it one more time. And also I'll add, shameless plug, I was a contributor for it this year and was invited to add one of the sort of homiletical examples in it, and we talk about Genesis 11 and plastic and stuff, so it's really cool. So there are a lot of great resources in that. It's the Plastic Jesus, Real Faith in a Synthetic World Earth Day Sunday resource by Creation Justice Ministries, and you can get out of that sermon starters and meaningful discussion for your church and worship resources. So it's really great. You can check it out at creationjustice.org/plasticjesus. And again, I'll link it in the show notes. Hey, welcome to the ecoChristian podcast. We're exploring what it means to be Christian on planet Earth, on Earth Month. And I am still your host, Caleb Cray Haynes. And so, y'all, I love working in my garden. It gets this time of the year and garden people are like giddy. And it's like, if you're a garden person, you're kind of like, know who all the other garden people are, and you're constantly like in conversation with them at church and all these different places. You're like, so like, have you planted yet? Have you planted yet? You know, like, what are you growing? What starts you got? You know, and it's like this ongoing, like, ooh, it's coming. You know, you're waiting for that last frost date to set out your tomatoes and all of that kind of stuff, man. It's just, there's something about it. Love getting my hands in the soil, the act of nurturing plants to grow and produce. It isn't just like achieving something, but it's a relationship between you and the earth. But I think because of the way in which we Christians have often colonized the gospel, it's more difficult for us, I think, sometimes to talk about a relationship, quote unquote, with creation. So for weeks, I've been out in my garden and prepping the soil and getting ready for the spring by hand. And I'm out there and I'm pulling this Bermuda grass out of my garden beds. And if you don't know, Bermuda grass is kind of the worst, in the way of like a plant that you don't really want near your garden beds. Because it basically is like this fast-growing, invasive grass that just spreads, and it's incredibly difficult to remove. And because of the way it grows through the rhizomes, like all it takes is like leaving the smallest little piece of Bermuda in your soil, and it's on the way back. So at this point, I've clocked numerous hours already this winter and spring out here in my garden pulling all these weeds, because you see, if I don't, they're going to take all the nutrients and water and light for themselves. So after many afternoons, at this point, to be honest, toot my horn a little bit, it's looking pretty good, right? And I'm thinking, like, I looked out there like a week ago, I'm like, done, right? Take that, invasive grass. But the other day I went out there and I'm walking in the garden. It was like this weekend. And upon closer inspection, I see all these little Bermuda grass shoots are rising to the surface here and there all through the garden. Like, come on, right? And at first I was like, You've got to be kidding me. Like, all that work, all that time, like, there's more weeds, like, after all that, and they're coming back for more. And then I just kind of caught myself. Of course there's more. Of course it's not done, because this is a relationship. Are you with me? So here lies the difference between a colonization posture and a loving relationship with creation posture. That so many of us have been taught to dominate and suppress and defeat the natural world, right? Put it in submission, so that you can do what you want it to do. We want solutions, right? Not relationship. So we spray Roundup. We put poison on the ground. Poison. The only final means of controlling something, right? Of controlling creation, which is to kill it. The only way we can permanently stop this life from springing forth is to enter into chemical warfare with it. So we do this without ever stopping to consider that poisoning our soil is poisoning ourselves. Of course, I have to come back with my hoe and my hands and gently spend 10 minutes cleaning up the weeds that are coming back. Of course, this is a practice to return to every week, because this is a relationship between me and this garden, right? This is a garden, not a factory. If you open your Bible and flip a page over, you'll read the word that God created humans to till and keep the garden. And I love Genesis 2:15, and now the version of Bible you're looking at may vary to a couple other choices, but these words till and keep are typically a mainstay. Agrarian and creation care writers have been highlighting this sacred text for a long time now, returning to it over and over again. Why? Because since, the beginning, we've been searching to better understand our vocation as human beings. Naturally, we want to know, what am I here for? And while the Bible is full of direction for God's people on that front, here in Genesis, in this poetic beginning, we get so much goodness just right off the bat. And there's these two little words, right? Till and keep. And these are not unfamiliar biblical terms, right? So in the Hebrew, it's avad and shamar. Now, shamar, it's pretty spot on, right? Keep is kind of a healthy translation akin to protection, right? This is a posture you're going to have around anything that you care for. I consider my daughters, right, and the love I have for them when I think about it, right? It's a posture of keeping. I want to keep them. I want to protect them. I want to watch over them. And that's like love fleshed out. But this other ancient word, avad, it can go places. Actually, it's fascinating that biblical context of finding avad in a garden setting, right, for many centuries has led translators to understand avad here in terms of till or cultivate. Yet elsewhere in Scripture, right, over 200 occurrences, the majority of the appearances of avad we translate as to serve. And so, and this would be a quick probably Google for someone, but you can see all of these verses all throughout scriptures, how avad is used as serve, right? In Exodus 1, it's used in multiple ways, flipping back and forth between even the Egyptians and Pharaoh and God, right? And then the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. And Pharaoh called unto Moses and said, Go ye, serve the Lord, only let your flocks and your herds be stayed. And then Isaiah, for the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Jeremiah, hearken not unto them, serve the king of Babylon and live. So, and then you can also see how this kind of slips into translators translating avad as worship, which happens several times throughout Scripture. And then there are a couple other times where avad is translated as till, right? He that tills his land shall have plenty of bread, Proverbs 28. There's one in Jeremiah, similar, Ezekiel. I think there's a couple in Ezekiel. I think one of the slip-ups that Westerners frequently do with language is it's like a game, right? So we comb through it, making strategic this or that choices. And of course, when you're translating, you have to make those choices, okay? You just got to pick one. But for the rest of the time, right, for the rest of us, we get this opportunity to glean from the knowledge, to allow the translation to not just be a this or that, but to be the idea itself, right? The thing in the middle that is attempting to come to us from this ancient word, and it sort of crosses our Western binary barriers. There's a reason that avad can say like till and serve, right? There's this posture here in so many of these words that is being shared with us. And that's what we're trying to grab with this term. What does it mean to have avad with a garden? Now, today, when we think about tilling, we have a totally different image that comes into our brains. We think about tillers, or maybe tractors, or in the least, some tools that through oxen and people power tills up the land. But that's not what's going on here in Genesis. No, we're not talking about modern methods of agriculture. We're talking about a relationship, a posture between the humans and the garden. You see, when I weed my garden, my favorite tool is actually a big garden fork. Because rather than flipping over my topsoil and completely disturbing all the microbial life down there, I actually want to lift it up. I want to loosen it. I want to aerate it. I want to make space within it. And in doing so, I can easily actually remove those rascally weeds in the process. You see, the importance of caring for our topsoil cannot be overstated. Because in just these few inches here that we call topsoil, I mean, in just that comes all food and vegetables and life on planet Earth, right? In just those top several inches. We don't think about it. But, you know, I've spent years at this point, to be honest, like combing through books and scientific research and podcasts and webinars and on and on. And the thing is, when it comes to solving every single global environmental issue today, from climate change to desertification, it always comes back to caring for our soil. No singular human-generated technology comes anywhere close to doing the kind of work that topsoil does. For being the substance that all life hinges on, it couldn't be more underrated and underappreciated. But as the future of agriculture is being greatly threatened today due to soil erosion, we are finally taking a closer look at soil health like never before. You see, the reason it's important to understand the avadness between us and the garden actually goes even deeper, I think, literally. The secret of the sauce is that soil is not just one thing. Healthy soil is made of a variety of different parts, okay? So think about it this way. First, there are like the minerals. Think rocks that have weathered into these tiny pieces over thousands of years. And these take the shape of silt and clay and sand and pebbles and so forth and so on. And there are many kinds of minerals that can make up our soil. Next, the next part would be like water. Water occupies a quarter of good soil territory. And about another quarter is just empty space. It's that air which is between these particles themselves. Air is just such a key ingredient to the health of soil. In fact, one reason that many soils struggle to do what they need to do is because it's been completely compacted by humans, by walking, by tractors, right? Which is why you should never walk on the places you're gardening, actually, if at all you can help it. After the minerals, then in the water and the air comes all the organic matter and our little microbial friends. So you've got the roots and the humus and the vegetation and the animal excrement, along with all the wonderful little microorganisms and creatures. And they're just creating their own little economy of goods beneath us down there. And therein lies all the special parts that create good, healthy topsoil. At the very core level of all life on Earth, it isn't just one singular thing called soil, but a network of nature in relationship with itself. So imagine microorganisms who are in community with one another, eating, dying, sacrificing, and resurrecting, right? Sorry, we're kind of nerding out for a minute, but this microbial life is continually mining and recycling nutrients, as we might say. One way to think about this is that these tiny little microbes, along with mycorrhizal fungi, are like nature's little farmers, or better yet, like microbial life down in the soil, like the Uber Eats drivers for all thriving plant life, and thus for you and me. And without them doing their part down there, it's like we're finished. These little life forms break down the organic matter and minerals so that plants can actually, quote, eat and drink from their roots in the ground. And so without these little farmers or delivery drivers doing their part down there, the plants don't get the nutrients they need, and then neither do we. And so the truth is that this sacred exchange, I'm going to call it, stretches on and on, meanwhile going deeper than we even fully understand today. You know, it's actually said we may know more of what goes on within our galaxy than we do with the crust of the earth. The whole thing is relationship. Relational. Why? Because God, who is in divine essence relationship, created creation thus so. None of this should surprise us. It's part of the DNA, the very fabric of creation, the web of life we are beautifully entangled within. And the more you're able to entangle yourself within it, right, the healthier and more whole that you'll be, right? Actually, did you know that just within a few brief hours of harvesting lettuce or harvesting any vegetable, right, that they begin to radically lose their nutritional benefits to us? Actually, just touching the soil, walking barefoot on the ground, scientists have now confirmed, right, these studies that are confirming that, like, there's all these immediate bodily health benefits that we get just from walking barefoot outside. Not on the sidewalk or broken glass, okay? I don't know where you live, but on the ground. We are designed for close contact with the earth. That's not me. That's how God made it, right? It's part of what we're designed for. Today, though, the abuse of our topsoil is perhaps the most dangerous thing that has occurred environmentally on our planet, because the very fabric of life hinges on the well-being of our soil. And that is true for, all plant life and all creatures. I just typed in my search engine, right? Like, give me the deets on soil health right now. And all of these, like, I'm just going to scroll through a few of these headlines, right? More than 50 billion tons of topsoil have eroded in the Midwest. Quote, right? Another one. Farms in the Midwest have lost much of their most fertile soil. Quote, right? U.S. soil could be eroding up to 1,000 times faster than it should. Quote, the Midwest has lost 57 billion metric tons of topsoil over the last 160 years, new study finds. You see, if I went the conventional way, big farm method in my home garden, and I got a tractor and a plow or a big tiller and used those year after year in the same field, in the same spots, and on top of that, I just grew this one singular crop year after year. It's called monoculture. And on top of that, I decided I was going to use poison to eradicate bug life from my crops. And then on top of that, had to turn around and use more chemicals for quote unquote fertilizer. Well, actually at that point, I just have a typical American farm. And that embodies the issues where we're at today. After so many seasons of that, all the biological life, all the goodness has actually totally depleted from that soil, from that ground. You could almost just call it dirt at that point and not soil, because we're seeing something else. It becomes lifeless, dead essentially. And there's nothing there holding that soil together. There's no life in it. And so when we get these hard washes and these hard rains, the soil actually begins to wash away. That's what I referred to earlier, desertification, in these big rain events. And and our soil, topsoil, literally washes away into streams and back into rivers and back into the ocean. And it can take hundreds of years to build new topsoil. So this is a crisis. Here's the good news with all this, though, is that you can begin Avad and Shamar right now. Right this moment. You can begin living into a healing relationship with soil, with the garden, with this place we call home. One, if you can grow something and begin to get to know the soil around you, do it. Eat locally, if at all possible. Eat things that are in season. Maybe just say no to strawberries and tomatoes in the middle of winter if you can, right? Find a CSA, find community sustainable agriculture, support a local farmer, go to a farmer's market, avoid ingredients that aren't natural or organic or that you can't read, right? Begin to be more curious about where your food comes from. But there's also a million other ways to participate, right? I mean, think about the Americanized lawn. We know that 40 million acres of lawn are in America right now. Like there's so much lawn, more than we grow corn. We have lawn. We use 30 to 60% of fresh water every year to make lawns green. Are you with me? We use like 3.3 trillion gallons of water every year on landscaping. It's estimated that around 5% of the air pollution in the United States comes just from our lawnmowers. You can't make this stuff up. And I've heard multiple stats on how we spill, because it sounds crazy, we spill 17 million gallons of gas annually with our lawn equipment. Like apparently we're just wasteful, and not very good at pouring things. All this adds up, right? We use around 70 million pounds of chemical fertilizer on lawns every year. We are killing it, literally. This is the definition of suppressing, dominating, colonizing, forcing nature to do something that it does not want to do. And when it's not just the lawns in our front yard, but it's like the food that we eat, the you know, the structures that we're building, the minerals that we're mining. So, yeah, Avad and Shamar. So instead, grow native plants, not lawns, right? Grow clover or flowers or grass. The irony is what's required of us is less, not more. If you're a farmer, I'll leave this secret. The top 3 things you can do to change your relationship with the soil is to adopt 1, no-till farming methods, 2, crop rotation, and 3, use cover crops. I'll link, there's some wonderful resources and books on this, and I'll link them in the show notes. There are so many great resources out there, but you don't have to change the world. You just have to change the relationship with the soil right under your feet, and also hopefully with the food you eat. So may you, my friends, embody the gift and the posture, not just individually, but us together with your community around you, the work of Avad and Shamar, of serving and keeping this beautiful garden as we are created in the image of the Creator, as we are put in a place to do something sacred, something restorative, something healing, because it's not just about us, and it's not just about what we want out of the earth. It's about what God desires, and a posture after God's own heart, one that is marked by love and grace and joy, and one that loves our neighbor, one that gives life, one that feeds the hungry, one that loosens the bonds of injustice. And that is what it means to embody Avad and Shamar.